Hi! In this lesson, we'll have a look at some more semantic tags available with the current version of HTML. Section is used to identify a section of a document, generally with a heading. An example can be chapters of a book, or tabs in a tabbed interface. It's not really a generic container. For that, we have div that can be a better fit. Section must not be confused with div, since div has no semantic, while section does. Section helps you build a sort of an outline of your document, an organic structure of it. An example can be a web page where you have sections like About Us, Portfolio, Contact Us, each modeled as a section with its own heading. Let's give it a try, this time using the index.html file we used when we first experimented with HTML. So let's open our index.html file that we put into front-end dev experiments. Let's open it with Sublime. This is the file as we left it the last time. So let's remove this text. Let's imagine that we have a web page with these three main sections: About Us, Portfolio, and Contact Us. We can model each of these main sections of the page as a section. So this is the first one, this is the second one, and this is the third one. Each one of these sections can have its title. Let's say that we want to use an H2, not the most prominent one. And then the page will have a main title. So let's see how the browser renders this. Oops. So this is the way the browser renders this page. So what we see here, okay, we have the H1, and these are the other heading tags that we use in the page. What we see here is that we have the H1 that we used, H2, H2, and H2. What about the sections? Well, let's open the Chrome inspector to have a look. Right click, inspect element, and here is our page. I will put it on vertical as a matter of preference. Okay. One of the things that I like of the Chrome inspector is that it doesn't allow you only to look at the structure of the page, but it's also useful to find things within the page. For example, if I want to inspect this piece of HTML content and I want to find it within the network of elements that the browser created when reading the page, I can just click on the magnifying lens here. When it becomes blue, it means that it's active. And as I move over the content of the page with my mouse, it will show me the space that each element takes in the page. For example, this is the H1. We know that the H1 is a block level element, and in fact we can see that it takes all of the horizontal space of the page. And the same is for the H2, H2, and H2. I can also see the complete boundaries of the element. For example, if there is a margin or padding around the content of the element, I can see that visually, the orange area around the content of the element. And moreover, if I click on it, this element will be highlighted in the HTML structure of the page. And this is incredibly handy, especially when you are looking at very complex HTML pages where you have hundreds of HTML tags. Let's move on to the article. Article represents a self-contained composition in a document. An article is a piece of content that should make sense on its own. A good example of an article is a forum post, a blog post, a comment in a comment thread, and so on. An article is kind of similar to a section in that it's a sectioning element that should ideally have a heading within it. But differently from a section, more geared toward grouping things, an article is for a unit of content. To get back to our example, we can imagine an additional section. Let's get back to our index file. We can add another section that we can call our tweets, and then within this section we can have an article. And maybe a paragraph. So as you can see, the section is the grouping element that represents a specific content or section of my page, and within this section I have one or more articles. Each article is a unit of content, in this case a single tweet. So let's go back to the browser, refresh to reload the HTML file. Oops, I forgot to save. By the way, Sublime tells me that the file has not been yet saved, because we see this small circle. As soon as I save the file, the circle disappears. So I know that the file has been saved. So if I refresh the HTML page, I can see my tweets. So this is the H2 that I put within the section, and this is the article, the H3 and the paragraph within the article. So if we drill down to the article, we can already tell that the article is another block level element, as most sectioning elements. And within the article I have my H3 and my paragraph. So let's move on. Now we saw that the section and the article too, they should be defined not only with content but also with a heading area, and we did that using the H2 for the section and the H3 for the article. But what if our heading area contains something more than just a title? It could be a logo and a title, or a navigational menu, or it can contain other elements like a search form and so on. So how do we represent that within our sectioning element, be it a section or an article? Well, we do so using another HTML element, the header. So let's go back to our index HTML file. Let's suppose that our article, for example, has got something more than a title. Let's suppose that it has an image and a title. So we don't know yet how to represent an image, so I will just write image down. So we know that, semantically speaking, the article should have a heading area. So this area should be contained to, differentiate this area from the content of the article. But we cannot use the H3 to enclose the logo, because the logo is not a title. It's just something that goes with the title, and it's just part of the heading area of the article, but it's not a title. So we can use the header for this reason. The header is another tag that comes to our help, and its purpose is just that, to define a heading area that we can use in an article, in a section, or in other parts of our HTML document. If we save the file and we go back to the page and we refresh our page, we can see that nothing has changed. We have our article. Within our article we have a header that now defines a new block of space. A header is another sectioning element, is another block level element, so it takes up all of the horizontal space of the page, as we saw for the section, for the div, for the paragraph. And within the header we have our logo, that in this case is just a text node, is just a block of text, and then we have our H3 element. So let's make our tweet better. So let's get back to the index HTML file. Let's suppose that this is our tweet, sorry, this is our tweet. We have a header where we have, for example, the image can be the the avatar of the poster of the tweet. This can be the tweet title, and all of these represent the header of the single tweet. Then we have the content of the tweet, and then we want to put some kind of bottom information at the bottom of each tweet, something like the date the tweet has been posted. We can say that this is sort of a footer of each single tweet. And for this specific semantic meaning, we have a footer element, the footer tag. That is exactly like the header tag. And you can use it to add whatever information that relates to the containing element. In this case, it can be time and date of the post of the tweet, for example. So we can save, get back to the page, refresh the page, and we can have a look at our tweet right now. So we have our header that is nicely contained by this tag. We have the tweet content, and then we have the footer of the tweet. That, as you can already guess, is another block level element, because when you focus on it, you see that it takes up all of the horizontal space of the browser window.